Good morning. This is Chair French convening the regular business meeting of the Kansas Corporation Commission for Thursday, September 25th, starting today an hour later than our typical time. But I am joined, I believe, by both other commissioners, Commissioner Keene and Commissioner Keither. On today's agenda, we have a consent agenda consisting of 17 items, and we have two noticed items to consider. We will begin with our consent agenda. Commissioners, you've had the opportunity to review the 17 items on the consent agenda. Let me ask at this time if there are any questions, beginning with Commissioner Keither
No questions, thanks.
and Commissioner Keene. Commissioner Keene, you are on mute if you are speaking.
So you don't have to do a lip sync. Let's try that again. I have no questions, and I would move that we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Is there any further discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all in favor, please vote aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed say no. The consent agenda is approved. We will now move to our two noticed items. Our first noticed item is in docket number 25 EKCE 294 RTS, and this is a proposed order on a settlement agreement in that docket. Our presenter for this item is Mr. Brian Fedotin. Good morning, Brian.
Good morning, Commissioners. On January 31st, 2025, Evergy filed an application requesting a net increase in its annual revenue requirement of $196.4 million after costs included in the property tax surcharge are netted out. The request represents an actual base rate requested change of $192 million, or 8.64% in total retail revenues. On July 16th, the parties filed a joint motion to approve a unanimous settlement agreement. The order goes into more detail, but I'll spotlight a couple of the key terms now. Evergy would receive an annual overall increase in base rates of $128 million, inclusive of the rebase of property tax surcharge revenue. There's no stated return on equity included in the settlement. However, a return on equity of 9.7% would be used for the transmission delivery charge filings. The initial request to implement the Stay Connected program is withdrawn without prejudice. The customer charge for all residential customer classes would be $15.25. Again, there are a lot more terms in it, but those are a couple to spotlight for purposes of this presentation. On July 21st, the Commission held a hearing on the proposed unanimous settlement agreement. When approving a settlement, the Commission must make an independent finding that the settlement is supported by substantial competent evidence in the record as a whole, establishes just and reasonable rates, and is in the public interest. This docket has an extensive record, including Evergy's application, direct and rebuttal testimony submitted by 17 Evergy witnesses, direct and cross answering testimony filed by staff and numerous other interveners. The testimony was prepared by well-qualified and competent professionals, and those professionals relied upon hundreds of pages of work papers and discovery requests that were thoroughly examined. Having reviewed the record as a whole, this order finds unanimous settlement agreement is supported by substantial competent evidence. Net of rebasing the PTS, the average residential customer would experience an increase of approximately $8.47 per month based on average annual residential usage of 900 kilowatts, including other existing rider charges. Residential customers could experience a net increase of approximately 6.6% in their total customer bill. The signatories to the settlement believe the settlement agreement will result in just and reasonable rates. Staff contends the agreed upon $128 million revenue requirement increase strikes the proper balance between Evergy's need for reasonable assurances that it can earn sufficient revenues and cash flows to meet its financial obligations and the need to keep rates as low as possible for customers. Staff believes the cost recovery afforded under the unanimous settlement agreement accurately reflects Evergy's cost of providing reasonably sufficient and efficient service. Again, the order goes into more detail, but this order finds that approval of the unanimous settlement is in the public interest, and the signatories agree the terms of the settlement agreement are in the public interest and should be approved by the commission. Lastly, the new rates would take effect based on the customer's billing cycle dated beginning October 1st. With that, I'm available for questions.
All right, thank you, Mr. Fedotin. Are there any questions on this item? And I'll begin this time with Commissioner Keen.
Thank you, Chair French. I am filing a partial dissenting opinion on today's order. The reasons for this dissent are set out in some detail within the dissenting opinion itself. However, I want to use this opportunity to briefly summarize the rationale behind my dissent. This commission order grants and increases Evergy's return on equity for transmission delivery charges from 9.4% to 9.7%, notwithstanding credible testimony that a lower 9.5% ROE could be adequate. Transmission delivery charges, in essence, are costs associated with building and maintaining the transmission system and constitute approximately 18% of Evergy's retail ratepayer total electric costs. As more thoroughly detailed within my dissenting opinion, I believe that the approved return on equity is excessive and may present ongoing affordability issues for ratepayers. Transmission delivery charges are not included in base electric rates, but rather are passed through to ratepayers as a separate surcharge on their monthly bill. The Evergy Kansas Central transmission delivery charge pass-through includes transmission capital expenditures independently occurred by Evergy, as well as those mandated upon Evergy Kansas Central by the grid operator, the Southwest Power Pool. Generally, Evergy Kansas Central bears approximately 9.3% of the Southwest Power Pool's authorized and directed transmission costs incurred throughout the 14-state SPP region. In many instances, Evergy retail ratepayers bear this 9.3% of SPP transmission costs without regard to whether Evergy ratepayers actually derive any direct benefits. In recent years, SPP-directed transmission investments and their related capital expenditures have increased at what I believe is an astonishing rate. SPP-directed projects totaled $1.04 billion in 2021, $7.68 billion in 2024, and are anticipated to range from $11.8 billion to $20 billion in 2025. The potential impact of Evergy's share of these costs, if and when these are passed through to ratepayers via the transmission delivery charge, is most concerning. Increases in the allowable return on equity for transmission delivery charges directly increases rates. Accordingly, applying a larger return on equity to an ever-increasing transmission delivery charge base makes ratepayer affordability, in my opinion, even more problematic. In this docket, several Evergy witnesses noted the importance and the company's importance of and the company's commitment to reliability and ratepayer affordability. Notably, in his testimony at the evidentiary hearing, Evergy President and CEO David Campbell acknowledged that roughly 25% of Evergy customers report that they struggle with paying their monthly utility bills, including energy bills. Raising the return on equity used to calculate Evergy's transmission delivery charges may exacerbate these ratepayer difficulties. The Commission must provide a fair rate of return to Evergy while simultaneously protecting ratepayers from unnecessary or unjustified rate increases. Throughout the country, affordability concerns are more prominently being balanced against the anticipated need to construct additional power plants and transmission to serve increasing load needs while maintaining grid reliability. In this instance, I believe that selecting an adequate yet more austere authorized return on equity for Evergy to apply to future and likely increasingly larger transmission delivery charges would tangibly demonstrate the Commission's understanding of and sensitivity and commitment to ratepayer affordability. Furthermore, a lower Evergy return on equity for transmission delivery charge purposes, it seems to me, would strike a fair balance between ratepayer and utility investor interests in sharing and bearing the costs and risks of providing sufficient and efficient electric service. Under the circumstances, an authorized return on equity of 9.7% to be applied to Evergy's transmission delivery charges, in my view, is unwarranted. Accordingly, I very respectfully dissent from that portion of this order. Therefore, it is a partial dissent. And I would finish by saying this. I think this is certainly a case. I have a lot of respect for my colleagues, and I think this is certainly a case where reasonable persons may have honest differences of opinion. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Keen. Commissioner Keither, any questions?
No question for me. I move the noted item approval from.
And I will second that motion. Is there any further discussion on the order? I'll make just a quick comment. I appreciated all the work that was done in this proceeding. The settlement is very different from the initial application that we saw. We saw a lot of work, all the stakeholders coming together in very, very detailed negotiations to put together a settlement that got us, I believe, to a very reasonable place. And those pieces all together, I think, do result in just and reasonable rates. I will just make a few comments about the future, as my colleague Commissioner Keen did. I think we all see what's coming. We know there is more investment coming in the system. There's no question that price increases are probably going to happen, at least in an absolute sense. The question is whether those happen at a pace that sort of matches the pace of growth in the economy and a pace that our residents and businesses can afford. And that's something I hope our staff, and I know they will, stay laser focused on. The other piece of that, though, is we all know that part of that growth that's causing us to have to invest in the system is just general upkeep. It's normal expansion of the system, but an outsized driver are sort of these new large loads, and that's not really a piece of this proceeding, but that is going to be something that we talk a lot about in the future. It's a cost pressure that's going to drive investment, and so more than ever before, I think the question is going to be not whether we invest, not whether we grow the system and serve those new customers, but making sure that the people that benefit from that investment are the people that pay for that investment. And I think that is going to be really key. So, look forward to continued discussions on cost allocation and, making sure that if we invest, that the right people are paying for that investment. Also would say, tangentially related to this docket, I was a bit disappointed to see the proposal on lower or fixed income rates withdrawn, although I understand it's part of a comprehensive settlement. It's something we discussed at the hearing. That is something I hope all parties will devote some time and attention to in the future. Again, just because I do think that there's going to be a lot of investment in the system, and there is a certain subset of the population that is going to have a hard time responding to any increases, even if they are at the pace of inflation. So I hope that is something that folks will continue to pay attention to, maybe even discuss with our friends at the legislature in the future. So with that, that would be my only comment. If there are no further comments, we do have a motion and a second in front of us to approve the order. All in favor, please vote aye.
Aye.
Aye. All
With
opposed?
the pardon me, Chair, with the exception of my dissent regarding the return on equity for transmission delivery charges, I vote yes.
And all opposed say no. And we have Commissioner Keene's partial dissent recorded. All right, the order is approved. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
With that, we will now move to our second noticed item. It's in docket number 26 TRAM 085 PEN, and this is a proposed penalty order in that docket. Our presenter for this item is Mr. Ahsan Latif. Good morning, Ahsan.
Good morning, Commissioners. The penalty order before you arises out of a compliance review of VZQZ and Company LLC, a common carrier which hauls machinery, large objects, grain, feed, and hay, operating out of Lakin, Kansas. From August 13th through August 26th, staff special investigators conducted the compliance review and found 20 violations, and the order sets those forth in 12 specific counts, resulting in $7,650 in total penalties. I'll briefly summarize some of the larger penalties that were involved. There was a $3,000 fine for operating a commercial motor vehicle that had previously been declared out of service by the KHB before correcting that out of service defect. A $750 fine for not obtaining periodic annual inspections on the commercial motor vehicles operated. A $1,500 fine for hauling loads in excess of the statutory weight limit in Kansas, as well as a $500 fine for using a driver without a valid CDL to operate a CDL required vehicle. Additionally, there were fines related to the carrier's drug and alcohol testing program and policies, as well as a record keeping violation. Staff believes that the fines are appropriate and recommends approval of the penalty order. Both I and staff are available to stand for any questions you may have.
All right, thank you, Mr. Latif. Any questions on this item, beginning with Commissioner Keither?
No questions, just a little appalled at the flagrant disregard of what they need to be doing.
And Commissioner Keene?
I join with Commissioner Keither in that concern, and I appreciate the granular nature of your overview as well, Ahsan. Having said that, I would move approval of the order.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the order as described in this docket. Any further discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all in favor, please vote aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed say no. The order is approved. Thank you, Ahsan.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
All right, with that, if there is no further business to come before us today, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor, please vote aye.
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 Aye, we're adjourned. Thank you all. Take care.
Take care.